I imagine the overall, correct me if I'm wrong, but you are generating revenue by processing some kind of volume of transactions. So you're taking a small percentage, right?
Or an optional tip. We were one of the first
Yeah.
platforms to use the tipping model.
Yeah. And so usually that doesn't leave an enormous marketing budget for acquiring customers. So what was the way how did you grow without that? What did you guys do to get more and more attention and get people on the platform?
I wish it was a stronger message. But one of the things that's key about an entrepreneur is it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down as long as you keep getting up. And This is going to be one of those years.
I would say 2026, at least from my perspective, has been definitely the year of the AI hype cycle. And is this impacting your businesses? Do you see this affecting you? I mean, a lot of people we talk to, they talk about like the SaaS apocalypse that just happened. And at the same time, it can be a productivity tool. How is it affecting your businesses? Daryl, welcome to Product Growth Stories. So happy to have you on the show. So I'd love to dive into your experience and journey making Connection Point. Maybe we could just start off with what in the world is it and what problem in the market did you set out to solve?
Cool. Well, thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Connection Point is a company. We go to market under multiple brands in the crowdfunding and crowdfinancing industries. So we call it a platform for collaborative commerce that helps causes and corporations work with consumers to fund impactful projects. And so, for example, one of our brands is FundRazr, FundRazr, ZR, depends on where you are. And that is a platform for personal and professional charity. It's a lot like a GoFundMe or a GoFundMe Pro, professional version of that. We have Crowdfunder brand, which is around similar to Kickstarter or Indiegogo or BackerKit and those kind of things, about helping fund creative projects. So, for example, the art projects that are at Burning Man, the major temple there funds with us every year, and then they go and they burn it down. And we have one other brand, which is called CocoPay, which is collaborative community payments. And it's about a crowd financing app to help people pay for medical devices, dental services, medical services, veterinary care, where the funds go directly into the organization instead of the pocket of the patient, which has got lots of accountability and privacy benefits and things like that.
So it's everything around crowds and
funding or financing.
Funding and financing, yeah.
We've only done about $400 million for about 200,000 projects. So sometime soon we're going to get good at it.
You're probably getting pretty good at this point. And why did you choose this area when you were starting out? Why did you pick this particular model? Like what led you down this path?
So I'd started a company and my partner and I sold it into a firm and we ended up taking it public on Nasdaq in December of 99. So I've experienced as a CTO, Senior VP Development at kind of enterprise software level. And we were the 78th fastest growing business in the United States in 1999 and one of the hottest IPOs of the year. So that was an interesting ride, I got to say. Coming out of that, we ended up selling it to our largest competitor. And I, was thinking about what to do. And I was coaching my son's lacrosse team. And I was inviting all the guys out, teenage boys out to practice using email. And that wasn't working very well. But I saw they were all using Facebook. So I posted an event on Facebook and I had everybody show up to practice. And I went, I wonder if I can get them to pay their fees this way. And so the first version of FundRazr was created to do fee collection and some donation processing for my lacrosse team. And we picked the FundRazr brand initially, but called the company Connection Point because I realized early on there's going to be lots of different opportunities in this space. So the interesting thing was that the customers really didn't care much about the fee collection side, but boy, they liked the donation processing. And so we followed our customers into personal professional charity. We started with personal charity and kind of unaffiliated groups like sport teams that didn't have a big structure behind them. And then we had nonprofits coming to us and saying, hey, we really like what you do because you got this great visibility on Facebook. Can you give us tax receipting and team support and peer-to-peer events and things like that?
So just sticking with the customer
where they want us to go.
Right. Yeah. So I'm just imagining you kind of following this customer journey and seeing how they're using it. And at the same time, it sounds like you started with a relatively small problem to solve, but you stuck with it for like decades. So you know what I mean? That I think is unusual for a lot of entrepreneurs, to try a little thing here, get a little bit of information, maybe try another thing somewhere else. What made you know that this is what you wanted to stick with and really build an entire company around versus kind of playing around with technology and seeing if you could solve, one-off problem for your lacrosse team because you could?
Well, so one of the things that happened along the way was we built a lot of the technology out, and there's a lesson in here for everyone to hear. Based on using Facebook as the APIs, as a distribution mechanism for us to talk with our donors and our teams, we were able to do all sorts of interesting promotional communication inside the platform. But that same capability was used by a company called Zynga, who was doing Farmville, and they were basically destroying the Facebook user experience because everybody was inviting you to be, adopt a cow with them. And we used to say there's cows wandering through the newsfeed.
Yeah.
And so Facebook, in order to get control of that, shut down all those APIs. And so good guys like us who are using it properly were all of a sudden standing there going, I had to look at it and went, I'm going to have to flush about $250,000 of R&D down the toilet, our initial funding that we put in, because it no longer would work. They shut them all off within weeks. Fortunately, PayPal came along and they said, we see what you're doing. You guys seem to be really good at responding to this. So we got a deal for you. How about we help you create the next version of FundRazr, and you basically get to keep it as long as we get our fees out of it. And so we focused that on personal charity at that point. And we, retooled everything, launched in 6 months, and ended up having them help us direct customers to us right away. But we didn't actually know exactly why we were doing it. And I would love to say that, we had a good feeling for it. Don't get me wrong. We had a gut, this is going to be important. We had no idea kind of the shape of it. Mm-hmm. So as the end of the year, we launched in July, and in Christmas time, we got a Christmas card. And the Christmas card was one of our customers. And it said, we just wanted to say, thank you for helping save our daughter's life. And you're like, you'd say, what? They had been living off the grid in Hawaii, and their daughter ended up with childhood leukemia. And they weren't covered by medical insurance. So whatever. But he had been U.S. military. So the military hospital in San Diego said, I'll take her. We'll take her. But you got to get her here right away because this stuff is really dangerous. Every day matters. So they started a fundraiser campaign, got $3,500 for plane tickets overnight, basically, booked the flight, got her to San Diego. They said, fantastic. If you hadn't got her here today or tomorrow, she would have died. So they said, without you guys, we wouldn't have been able to do that. All of a sudden, work wasn't work anymore, right?
Yeah.
It's about the impact that we could create with doing this, not the mechanics of building a platform and keeping customers happy. And that's been a driving force ever since.
Yeah. After an experience like that, it's hard to look at it the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never had a job where, work is not a 4-letter word here, where you get to go home every night having helped rescue puppy dogs, get fresh water for drinking communities, help, political problems get resolved, help take care of people.
Yeah, I love that. And how did you grow this? Because I imagine the way correct me if I'm wrong, but you are generating revenue by processing some kind of volume of transactions. So you're taking a small percentage, right?
Or an optional tip. We were one of the first platforms to use the tipping model.
Yeah. And so usually that doesn't leave an enormous marketing budget for acquiring customers. So what was the way how did you grow without that? What did you guys do to get more and more attention and get people on the platform?
Well, there's a couple of things. One, in the early days of what we were doing, because it was still a new thing, we could get some press coverage. And GoFundMe actually figured out the press cycle on that ahead of us by about, quite a bit. And as a result, and full credit to them, that's how they were able to grow into a household word over the time. They really took advantage of the earned media that they get in all sorts of local newspapers and whatever, covering the campaigns that they were running. So there was that kind of natural virality of the story itself. The other thing is that because we're using Facebook as a mechanism to help connect causes with the donors who cared about them, there was a lot of social sharing that went on. And at one point, we were getting 20 million visits to campaign pages in a month and this is when we were in the beginning, just because of the viral nature of the kind of, Facebook was working very hard to promote the content that was in the activity feed around things like what we did. We were actually one of the first partners, one of the 30 companies in the world that were tapped by Facebook to support their new newsfeed, their activity feed, by having custom coding that we did to help tell the feed what the content was all about. It was called semantic web stuff. And as a result, they really heavily promoted the content that our campaigns did, which naturally brought in people to the platform. But if you
Yeah,
go
they
back to
love
the
it
problem that
whenever
we
you
said, we
use
didn't
their
actually know the
latest
shape of
feature.
this thing. If you say that you're a generic fundraising platform for anybody, there's nobody you can target. Like, it's not really easy to find that need of customers that you can put marketing dollars towards. And I used to describe it a little bit like feeling like I'm an engineer on a runaway train. The thing is accelerating, going around corners. We can feel it tipping off the rails. I can pull all the levers I want. I can blow the horn. I can do this thing. And we're just going wherever the train wants to go. Because it was really, no matter what we could do, it was very difficult to influence the direction of the company.
Yeah, I can see. So it's really, I guess it would a pull situation where, especially based on, people are trying to get funding, they're going to share this as much as they can. So they're doing marketing almost on your behalf on all these
And
social
lots of
platforms.
brand distribution about, hey, and when it's successful, there's great stories that come out of it.
Yeah. So as you've gone through this whole thing and now it's an established series of different brands that are doing this, what is your vision for the future? What do you want to do now that you've built this whole ecosystem of platforms?
Yeah. So there's a couple of different things that are going on, I think, in our world that really matter here. One of them is that we're starting to long for the feeling of community again. We've had this scenario where we're online and we feel disconnected from neighbors and disconnected from others. And there's a longing for a return to some of that safety net of having that community around us. So this type of platform really helps. We can say, it's basically it's an ATM that lets you take a withdrawal on your Karma Bank. And if you need help, you can get help funding something. But the flip side is also true, that you can help others in your community solve or deal with some of the interesting problems in the world. So our questions are around, how do we make it easier for the regular user to tell the story of their need and for people to be able to safely contribute to that need? And that's what CocoPay is a lot about. I mean, I think it's 40% now of the funds of the campaigns that go on to GoFundMe are from people that are raising money for healthcare, particularly in the United States. And if you give money to someone who says, hey, I've got cancer, then if you know them well, that can work really well. If you only know them a little bit, it can be quite dangerous, especially if they get press behind it. Because press likes to exaggerate the dramatic story. And some of those dramatic stories can end up being fraudulent.
Yeah.
Where with what we're doing, the validity of the cause is determined by a trusted entity, like a business or somebody who, if you're going to do fraud, you have to have collusion between multiple people to do fraud. Right. And as a result, we can have accountability for the way those funds are used. And that's really where one of the areas that we're working on is this kind of collaborative community payment model, where people work together to pay for something, a medical service or medical device, dental service, pet service, for a member of their community. But they're not giving them the money. They're paying for it for them.
Yeah. So it's a little bit like an escrow in some sense, or there's some kind of, you're not delivering the money to them, you're paying
Well,
for
we're actually having the money go into the facility, the business, in a way that the business can manage it. So that means proper reporting. Sometimes it's about using I don't know if you know the Kickstarter all or nothing model that was originally done. You had to hit a certain goal before anyone is charged.
Yes.
So if you needed $8,000 for a single tooth implant, a lot of people can't afford that. They can afford part of it, but they can't afford all of it. So they would put up the money they're going to pay for it. Then they'd ask the community to cover the rest. And we can make sure that the dental clinic gets either $8,000 or nobody's charged anything. And that way, they can take the risk out of trying fundraising, but also it doesn't go into the patient's pocket. So
right.
Funny enough, on GoFundMe, if somebody promises to wash your car for you for a contribution, that's technically work in terms of IRS or CRA. And that's not good. I mean, they theoretically can tax that.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of particular details for all of those.
And there's nothing inevitable as death and taxes. So just watch. It's going to come to this space soon.
True. Yeah. So I would say 2026, at least from my perspective, has been definitely the year of the AI hype cycle. And is this impacting your businesses? Do you see this affecting you? I mean, a lot of people we talk to, they talk about the SaaS apocalypse that just happened. And at the same time, it can be a productivity tool. How is it affecting your businesses?
Well, the way we're applying it is there's two major problems that our clients have, our customers have. One is they don't know how to tell their story. and the others, they don't know how to promote their story. So AI is useful in both cases. We already have an AI embedded where you can do improved content generation. Basically, it's got prompting to help it understand how to write an effective crowdfunding story. And what we want to do is make that easier to do, because it still takes too much, in my opinion, it takes way too much knowledge to kind of try and figure out what you're trying to start with, where we can get the AI to do more about pulling the story out of you, basically interviewing you about the impact of what this is. It's not about the details. Like having a tooth, there's a very mechanical thing about it. Well, what's the impact? Well, I don't smile anymore. I haven't had a date in months. Like those are the impacts on your life that you can change by getting an implant. So telling those stories is really important. So we're working on enhancing our AI to do that. And the other part is then helping to determine how to get the message out. And that's something, most people aren't marketers. They're not going to know how to tell their story and distribute it. The campaigns that you see really successful either have a very strong community that this person was involved with already, or they're really good at marketing.
Yeah.
Naturally.
I mean,
they just tell a good story and everybody wants to, hey, I can help with that, and away they go. So those are the two. So AI is actually a net positive for us in that we can take what we do with human crowdfunding strategists right now and enhance what we're doing with Plus. It's not replacing those roles of humans, but it's enhancing it for people we can just scale it up more effectively. But a big concern for us is the moral hazard in AI that a lot of people don't talk about. So if you don't mind, let me just quickly do something here. If a lot of AI has the ability to do great things or harmful things, and we've seen the harmful things where people have become addicted to talking to their AI, and it takes a negative turn, and then they are harming themselves or someone else. We recently had a shooting in Tumbler Ridge in British Columbia here, where someone was having a very dark time and ended up basically kind of justifying it through their conversation with AI, and they shot up a school. So we've got that moral hazard that as a platform provider, I never want anybody to be harmed by what we do with our technology. We're here to be helpful, not harmful.
Right, of course.
It's not just an acceptable cost to business. Like one failure is a huge failure. So how do we make sure that the AI has guardrails on it so that if somebody's in a conversation, the AI can identify this person's going dark? I think I'd like to introduce you to somebody who can help you with this and bring a human into the conversation and then transition to the human so we can respond with our instinctive and empathetic behavior as opposed to just giving you the answer you want, which AI is fantastic at, but also hard to control. All the platforms are really
a little bit like the moderation challenge. It's like it's a very difficult, pervasive issue. Like how do you detect if somebody's
like 1 in 1,000
misusing?
And so it's really easy for it to fly under the radar, and then somebody gets hurt.
Yeah, getting the story out better in general for crowdfunding. And I know several marketers that have used, say, Kickstarter, for example, for funding. And usually it's it's an entire marketing campaign that they have to, build a list and do a stage like launch model to get everyone ready to sign up with like a progressive story, or other people use paid advertising to push people to the campaign at the right time, especially if it's like, has a time window. Have you seen that in your platform as well? Do people use those kind of methods of like list building and paid ads to hit campaign goals in some areas, or does your platform
No,
work
they
differently?
have to. They have to. Like there's this fantasy that sometimes the platform will bring you the crowd. If you have a hot product that is well known to the users of the crowd already, meaning the concept of the product is well known. So for example, comic books, funny enough, or tabletop games will go crazy if you do a really good job of marketing it, because there's a crowd there on Kickstarter for that. But if you're trying to do something that is outside of that, then you have to be much better at marketing and bringing your own crowd. So we talk about it in 3 ways. We say you've got to build, buy, or borrow your crowd. Building is the ongoing, hey, all your communications about getting somebody sign up for your newsletter. We're going to have a product coming out here. Then we'll inform you about it. It's good, but it's really slow. Buying a crowd, obviously using ads and trying to drive attention to you. And that can be really hard depending on your targeting. There's such a noisy marketplace right now. It's really hard to get the ROI on that kind of ad spend. And then the third piece is about borrowing a crowd. And this is about using influencers in a variety of ways. There's paid and there's non-paid influencers. Your paid influencers, okay, so you get them to go out, promote it. They don't really have that much skin in the game. I'm going to show it to my 10,000 adoring Instagram followers, and somebody might decide that they want it. There's no accountability for that.
Yeah.
And we can help bring accountability for that with tracking URLs and things like that, so that you know whether or not the influencer actually brought you any traffic. But you also have people like existing customers who, if you've done a really good job of keeping them happy, will be an advocate for you. They'll share that. So that's where we talk about borrowing a crowd. Borrowing the crowd of your current community can give you 100 times the reach that you might expect.
Yeah.
And being
So
able
even
to motivate,
with
we talk about motivating those people to be an advocate for you.
even with funding and crowd, there's no free traffic is the message. I think you're saying there's no, unless
To be
it's such
kind
a
of
hot
really
market that
fair,
they're
you're going to
searching.
get maybe 10% of your crowd from a platform like Kickstarter on a regular project. But you can overcome that really quickly. Like our Crowdfunder platform, because we use our optional tipping model in there, it can save you 8 to 9% on your spend. 8 to 9% of the price of your budget put into marketing can make a big difference, more than 10%.
Yeah.
In terms of traffic. So people look at us and go, but you don't bring us a crowd, and said, don't buy into the fantasy. If you're going to do the work here that you need to do to successfully launch a project, we can do it more cost effectively for you with better results.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you so much, Daryl, for the conversation. And just as we wrap up, for other people who are, in the SaaS game, what would the number one piece of advice you'd give them this year in 2026 to succeed?
I think that we're headed for a pretty rough economic ride for the next little while. So
Looks like it.
it looks really like that's
Yeah.
a no-brainer to predict right now. But the question is, how
Yeah.
deep is it going to get? And so for most businesses right now, I'd say react early rather than later. That's going to be the hard part, is, monitoring your costs, not having over-optimistic forecasts, and managing your growth from that point of view. I wish it was a stronger message. But one of the things that's key about an entrepreneur is it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down as long as you keep getting up. And This is going to be one of those years. We've been through it before, 2008, 2009, big, financial crisis, and businesses were really struggling at that point. 2001, post Y2K, same kind of thing. So I've been through this a couple of times, and the experience says, hunker down, just keep walking. And keep trying to solve problems for your customers, and you end up winning.
Conserve your cash too. Yeah, definitely makes sense. Thank you so much, Daryl.
Jean-Michel, I appreciate the time to talk.
Likewise.